You're watching Training Camp with Adam Marburger, exclusively on CBT News.
Welcome to Training Camp, exclusively on CBT News. I'm your host, Adam Marburger. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a black belt in F&I. This show's designed to help automotive professionals enhance their operations and ultimately achieve the rank of black belt in F&I yourself. Today, we've got a very, very special guest. We have Brooke Guy with Coastal Chevy and Cadillac coming in, and this young lady is extremely impressive. It's an honor and privilege, Brooke, just to have you here today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm honored as well.
Yeah, so, I had the honor and privilege to have breakfast with you, and I don't remember, it might have been NADA. We're going back. But I remember just sitting in front of you, talking a lot of shop, talking a lot of automotive. I loved your energy. And just following you online, it looks like you're deeply committed to winning in all aspects. So first, let's talk about your CrossFit and your training. It looks like you're always training. Tell us a little bit about that and how important it is to your success.
Yeah, so, I just believe if you're a healthy person physically, you can be healthy mentally and everything, and it just moves forward into everything else that you do. So it's funny because before I started working at the dealership, I was completely opposite of that. And I realized that I just needed to start waking up early, and that's the only time I could get it in because I was working until 7, 8 o'clock at night. And it just became a routine, and I just got addicted. I'm addicted to, honestly, I guess you could call it the suffering of CrossFit, because I know it works. It's 1 hour. I get the best workout possible, and it's just really important to me because it's my outlet. It's the one thing I can rely on to really make sure that I'm my best self. And the community is amazing. Community is everything. So whether that's working out or at the dealership or your personal life, it's just very, very important. Yeah.
Amen to that. And, here, we're both friends with Glenn Lundy. We talk about how we start the day is going to completely dictate how that day goes. And having a morning routine is absolutely non-negotiable. If you don't mind, share your morning routine. How early do you actually get up? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it depends on the day. So I will wake up like on gym days at 5:45 in the morning, go to the gym at 6:45, and then I'll be at the dealership, right after that. And then on the other days I don't. I wake up like at 6 extra early. That way I can get to the dealership. I usually get here an hour and a half before we open because that's like crucial time for me to be uninterrupted, nobody distracting me, and I can actually get my job done a little bit before the day starts. And that's kind of when I do my quiet time as well. That's really important to be in my Bible. I read a verse every day and do the study and everything. And it just allows me to set my day the right way because nothing is worse than just coming into the whirlwind and having no plan. So,
Amen. Now I've got to know, you're a general manager, you're running a couple stores, how the heck did you get to where you are at such a young age? If you don't mind, share your story a little bit of, kind of where you were, how'd you get into the business, and how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I guess you could say it's in my blood. So my grandfather started our business 44 years ago in 1980, and I actually never wanted to do it because my dad, it's like I'm kind of a rebel sometimes. So I knew my dad did it and he wanted me to. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do the opposite of that, firstborn child thing. So, but then I found that I was home and I was just needing something to do. And Dad was like, well, we have a position open. You can work at the dealership. And I was like, I know what you're trying to do, but you're not going to get me. And long story short, I eventually fell in love with it. It took me a few years, but I started in sales, did marketing for a few years, did F&I for a few years, at the desk. And then general manager when my dad was tired of me holding him accountable to his 20 group commitments that he wasn't doing. So he said, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make you the general manager and you can do them. And I was like, okay, I guess I have to do that, right?
Now out of all the positions that you held, because as a general manager, you got to wear every hat, or at least have comprehension on every hat, right? Was there a position you liked the most? What would you enjoy the most out of all those positions?
Hands down the desk. It was, you're only responsible for one department. And, there's something about working with your sales staff of like motivating them, training them, creating, like it's a whole lot easier to kind of create a schedule with them. And there's a couple of things that I really got to impact in their personal lives as well, and I got very close to them, and it was so much easier than what I do now because of the fact that it was just one department in one store versus now I have everybody, and it's definitely got its challenges, but I think the desk was the most fun for sure.
Now, what is your thoughts on this? I ask a lot of people this. What is your take on your F&I department, or I'm sorry, your sales managers having to sit F&I first? Do you like to see your desk guys having some comprehension in F&I? What does that look like in your group?
Yes, so every single person who has sat at the desk, so far at least, has had F&I experience, and that just comes from my dad. He made me do it. He made my cousin do it. He just knows, like, if you are going to be a successful desk manager, it's very good to understand F&I, and you can certainly understand F&I if you haven't done it, but you really will understand it because we all know. I mean, F&I is tough. You're selling an intangible product after the customer's already gone through the most fun experience, and then you're that person who's like, yeah, you want to protect your investment, like, awesome. It's not as exciting. So, I think going through that chair really sets you up for success on a desk.
Yeah, I can't agree with that more. The one thing I always preach, there used to be a division, and so I started doing this in 1999. I'm a recovering F&I manager, by the way. I'm still in recovery. I help people all over the country in F&I, and the one thing that really just melts my heart when you see the desk and F&I treat each other as one. They're not in each other's way. They work together. They're because the sales manager's the architect, and the F&I department, they're the finished carpenter. They're cleaning it all up. So what does that look like in your store? How important is it to have these two rowing in the same direction? If you'd like to allude on that, that'd be great.
No, it's crucial. I mean, if you don't have a desk and an F&I guy that are on the same page, it's just not going to set the deal up for the maximum potential. Like when I was on the desk, it was me and my cousin, and we have a great relationship. But like more than that, I would set him up correctly, and then he would maximize on the back end because I had everything in there right. And then if he needed a TO, I would take a TO. We were on the same team, and so because we had that cohesion, it was like we couldn't fail. We were just freaking rocking it, and it was just a great feeling versus, I mean, it's any relationship. If you've got some friction there, it's just not going to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the sales manager should be able to go take a deal in F&I. And I think the F&I person, what happens if somebody has to go to an obligation, or they should be able to sit in that sales desk and desk a deal as well. I mean, they should know each other's jobs in and out. So let's talk about training. I know you're big into training. So this show's based around training and development. I'm very bold when I say training's not something that we did. It's something that we must do. We must do it on a consistent basis. And this is training camp. And I use a lot of correlations with my background in mixed martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And, all of my fights that I ever won, I never won them in the cage. My fights were won 8, 10, 12 weeks before my fight. The conditioning, the cardio, the weight cut, all these things allowed me to get my hand raised. But everybody just saw my hand raised. Kind of like when an F&I manager puts together a nice back end, or a sales manager does a 3-car deal to a family with good gross. It wasn't then that they just made it happen. It was the training and the skill set and the development that led up to that. So if you would allude on the importance of training and development in your organization, and what do you guys do to make sure your teams are trained on a consistent basis?
Great question. So we do Cardone training. We've been with Cardone University for as long as I can remember. So our teams are required to do 2 videos a day. I think that's what Cardone does as well. And just whatever they want to do, whether that's closes or, he's got a lot of great other things in there as far as just like financials. So we require that. And then every day with our sales department, we have a meeting that could be on product knowledge. It could be on closing. It could be on anything. And we all know how many different facets there are to the sales department. But on top of that, I think a lot of people in this industry really forget about their service department. And the service department touches your customer 3 to 4 times a year. So when I first got into this role, my number one job was to really build relationships with those people. And I brought Jeff Cowan training in, and for a whole entire year, we had someone come in basically every other month. And the numbers that happened because of that, it was sickening in a way, because you knew you left so much money on the table previously, but it was insane. And then it was crazy to watch people's trust levels. Like they were just so skeptical at first. And then once they started doing the walk around and all those training, like that they train on, it was like, I will never not do this ever again. Like, and they have so much confidence in their jobs. They know what they're doing. They know how to sell. They know how to overcome objections. And like, how can you not do that for your advisors? I mean, these people, yes, selling a car is very important and all that, but customers who have problems with their vehicle, it needs to be repaired. It's like a necessity. So if you can't figure out how to convince that customer that this is what they need, you're really doing them a disservice. Yeah. So, we do training for everyone. I even brought someone in to do kind of like, what's the word, like personality assessments, with my office staff, just my office, because who trains their office staff? I mean, so, and I've seen that help with my manager and the people around her, because she's one certain personality and they're completely different. So it's now they understand each other. Yeah. And I will tell you, like, people have talked to me about the noticeable difference in her and in other people that they work with in the office. Like, that's huge, So training is like probably our number one thing that we are just harping on, because we understand that at no one point in time are you ever going to know everything. I mean, there's always something to learn and always something to be gained. And, for us, that's one of our values is growth. Like, if you don't think you can grow, you're just not going to work out here, because all of us have something that we can grow in.
Yeah, amen to that. You said that perfectly. One of my challenges, I touch thousands of stores. I'm in thousands of dealerships, lots of F&I people. And one of the things that breaks my heart the most is the people that just don't want to train and they don't feel like they can get better. And then some dealers, honestly, are very complacent and they don't really force their team to train. So when you come across somebody in your organization, it seems like it would be rare, but when you come across somebody that's really not into training, what's some best practices and techniques that you can share that are maybe that can help other struggling dealers getting people to want to train? Is there anything you can allude on that?
That's a great question, just because we've really done a great job of kind of weeding those people out over the years since we developed our core mission and statements and everything. But if I had someone who was kind of on the, just didn't really want to train, I would personally talk to them and just kind of find out why. What is it? Is it a lot of it? I think is just people don't like being uncomfortable. We like our comfort zones. And if you've never been challenged in that way, like when I first started, I hated selling cars. Like, I'm just going to be honest. It was like the worst thing. I would go home and cry. Like, it was terrible because it was just so much pulling and stretching and growth. It was like growing pains. And I think that's the thing is people in their minds, they think, oh my gosh, this is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. And I don't want to be exposed or whatever. But it's just like, if you just have a conversation with someone, you will find out so much and they'll open up to you and then you can figure out where to go from there, and you can find out from there, like, is this the right person or are they just scared? A lot of people are just nervous and scared and they don't know how to get better and they don't have anybody in their corner to back them up and support them. You never know where people come from in life.
Yeah, true there. So let me ask you this. I got time for one more question with you. I'm going to throw some at you.
Okay.
If you could go back to the beginning of your career, what would be some of the advice you would give yourself, knowing what you know now about yourself, the industry as a whole? Go back to the beginning when you were in the business for a year or two. What would you have told that person?
Gosh, I just would have told myself to just be open to the learning, and it gets better, because I just moved home from college and I moved to my hometown, but I had no friends. My life was selling cars and going home and living with my parents and all that. And it would just be like to hold hope, because I had so many questions about life and that, hey, like, you're going to be a general manager. Like, you're going to do this. Like, you have everything inside of you. You just have to be open and do it and do the training and listen to people that are smarter than you, and I did, but it's like, if I had done that sooner and just been more open sooner, how much quicker would I have gotten that point across,
Yep. There's a lot of things I want to say to my younger self, but I try not to beat myself up. But you know what? At the end of the day, this business is a marathon and it's not a sprint. Yeah. And just me, like, I'm a 20 plus year veteran. I delivered over 20,000 retail transactions in F&I, and I still don't know it all. I'm not the best, but I do want to become the best. I just want to become a better version of ourselves. And I think you can relate to that as well on a daily basis. So I'll tell you 100%. This, I always love talking to you. I'm glad to be connected to you. Thank you. I know you had a busy schedule today. I'm grateful that you spent some time here on training camp, and we'd love to have you back sometime in the future as well. So
yeah, I would love it.
Yep.
Thanks for thinking of me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate
Yeah.
you. You have a blessed day, my friend, and I'll talk
Yep.
to you sooner than later.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you for tuning into Training Camp exclusively here on CBT News. Remember this, if nothing changes, nothing changes. We must take action in our stores and be willing to truly invest into training. See, training is not something that we did, it's something that we must do, and we must do it on a consistent basis. Remember, fights are not won in the ring, they're won in training camp. Let's commit to training camp, my friends. See you soon.
Thanks for watching Training Camp with Adam Marburger, exclusively on CBT News.